Happy Friday, everybody. It is Amber Kivet here with Life Pro, and I'm excited to share with you one of our newest products that's being launched. It is the Zenzone Sauna tent. Yes, it is a sauna tent located here behind me in front of my facility out in beautiful nature. It is an outdoor experience. So those of you who are wanting to experience a true dry steam generated sauna, Life Pro has come up with that product now, and you're seeing it behind me. Looks like a big camp tent or like a hunting tent, if you will. It actually has a wood stove and everything that goes inside of it. I'll get into some of those details here in just a moment. And I would like to show you how to assemble and disassemble the tent, because although the directions in the manual give you kind of a generalization, it took me like arm wrestling. It would have been a great video to have seen of bloopers, because I was arm wrestling it and getting inside and trying to carry it around. It was like I was wearing the tent because it was just me. And I know many of you who are potentially going to buy this product, it is just going to be you maybe setting it up. It is something that you can use if you're going camping or you're going on a hike and you just want to experience it in the great outdoors. If you happen to go someplace going fishing on a chilly afternoon and want to experience the sauna afterwards, like I said, it does have a stove that generates heat. It comes with the stones that you can create steam, and it hits a heat range of up to 248 degrees Fahrenheit. I do not recommend that, because that is not safe for most people who are getting involved in a sauna experience. But the Zenzone, try and say that 5 times in a row. Zenzone, right? The Zenzone sauna tent, as it sits right here, is 71 inches cubical. So 70.8. We're gonna be down to the half inch, or however you want to put it. But 70.8 across, 70.8 on one side, and 70.8 in the center. Okay, so it is a perfect cube, 70.8 cube. This little door opening, there are 2 of these door openings, if I remember right. Yes, there's one on the other side as well. This door opening is 27.5 inches wide. So yes, you can step inside. I do not recommend you playing hide and seek with this, because it gets very, very hot in there without the stove. The actual tent material is made of an Oxford composite cloth. To my knowledge, it is not waterproof. I tried to locate that in the user manual, and I'm not finding that it is waterproof. So this is not a tent that you want to set up outside and have an overnight stay with your family or friends, or on your own. It is not a waterproof tent, from my understanding, from what I've read. Now, we have all the components here that you need in order to make the stove work the way that you need it to, but it has to go through some assembly. It has to go through some priming, and all of that is included here in the instruction manual. I'll explain to some of you that information here in just a little bit. I just wanted to go through some of the moving parts, and let's talk about, so many of you have already experienced our sauna blankets or our infrared sauna. The InfraZen, the big, it's a cubicle sauna. I want to say it's 2 feet or 3 feet by 3 feet by tall. You guys can go back and watch that video, but I keep it inside my building here, and we use it as a pre-treatment for when I go to work on soft tissue for injury recovery. But the difference in using an infrared sauna versus using a steam wood sauna is an infrared sauna, the heat panels create a radiation of infrared wavelengths. Okay. Depending on what sauna you have at home, you can have near infrared, far infrared, or mid infrared. In the grand scheme of things, infrared is the deepest penetration of heat possible in the human body. So does it matter if it's near, far, or mid? Not necessarily. But just an infrared wavelength in general penetrates through to the deepest level of healing. I also learned of some studies not too long ago that just spending a couple of days a week in a sauna, whether it's, I would say the infrared sauna, if you spend, because the heat and the steam create heat from the outside, but the infrared is actually a wavelength that can change your body on a cellular level because of the wavelength. But I've read a study in which you can reduce the onset of dementia, or you can experience the delayed onset of dementia by almost 40% by using infrared technology. So that would be our sauna blankets, that would be our infrared sauna, that would be even the red light therapy blanket that we have recently launched. We also have a sauna dome that goes on top of a table. So if you don't want to be in a blanket, you don't have the space for a sauna, you don't want to set up a tent outside, we do have a sauna dome that is back in stock again that sits on a flat surface or on a treatment table so that you can get a sauna experience without having to have the size. And you can break it down pretty easy if you don't want to leave it up put together. Anyhow, infrared sauna penetrates through in the form of heating panels. Dry steam sauna uses wood, charcoal, and stones, which we provide. So we actually provide the God-made stones in order to create the steam with your bottle of water. And when you're creating dry heat or steam heat, it works through the body a little bit different, but the heat intensity goes up. So those of you who live in Nevada or Arizona, you get to experience the dry heat seasonally, whereas the rest of us, I live in Indiana where it's incredibly humid outside, and when it's hot here in the 90s, it's more of like 120 because of the heat and the humidity. So if you're truly wanting a dry heat experience with steam or with wood, this is our newest product and invention in order to be able to do that. And again, it comes with all the moving parts. The tent itself folds flat into this carry bag. Okay, this is how it came delivered in 2 different boxes. This carry bag holding that tent all folded up, nice, nestled and tight, weighs about 26 pounds. And then the stove has its own carry bag, which keeps the stones in it. Okay, so here's our carry bag for our stove, and it breaks down. The pipes go inside of it. I can show you how to disassemble it after assembling it, and you can kind of go back in reverse to put it together, because the user manual can be a little tricky to follow at times, but it took me about a half an hour to put this together. It'll probably take me less than 10 minutes to disassemble it and put it together if I wanted to. So, but the carry bag holds the stove, which is down here on the ground, with all the extra components, and it weighs about 26 pounds as well in the bag. So we have all the moving parts for you. We also have, I don't have this tent anchored down because I'm not going to use it today because it is blazing hot out here where I'm at. So it has the poker for using wood and steam, and it has the tent anchors so that you can anchor the tent down, and it does not come with a tarp. So if, like right now, I've got mine sitting directly on the ground, on the grass, and you'll need a chair to sit inside of it. But if you're wanting to have a tarp to position it on, so you have a waterproof or a solid surface as opposed to the grass, that does not come included. Now, the question that was just asked, can you use it inside? Absolutely not, because you're creating fire. You're actually burning wood and you're burning charcoal and you're creating a fire. The wood stove goes inside of the tent and the smokestack comes out the top. So no, you're not going to want to use it inside at all because you will asphyxiate yourself with the smell of smoke. So don't do that. I'll show you how the stove works here in just a second. But just wanted to go through some things here really quick. But yes, this is a very, very exciting new product. I know Joel is really excited about kind of taking a journey into the sauna world, whether it's sauna and cold plunge, which is a huge trend right now, but it's been around since all the way back to BC with Hippocrates and the Roman Empire using a lot of these methodologies for healing way back when, before we ever decided that it was going to be the next good thing to slice bread. And Life Pro is just making it very convenient for anybody and everybody to talk about and experience what it's like to have that kind of technology without having to spend a fortune. So what Life Pro is really good at is providing a world-class product with a lifetime warranty in which you can experience the safety and security of being able to use one of these products at home without having to go in and see a therapist like myself, without having to go to see a medical professional or going to another facility, and you have it all from the convenience of your home. And I know what a lot of you are saying, I wish I had, I wish I had, I wish I had. Or many of you might have it, but you don't make the time to do it. So if you end up in wanting the simplicity of having a sauna experience without having to have a full-on cedar or hemlock Canadian wood sauna, you now have that option in the form of a pop-up tent that takes 30 minutes to pop up, and it takes just as much time to break it down in a sense. We do have the gloves for heat because we are dealing with fire and heat on a carbon steel stove. So there is risk of burning yourself, so be careful with that. And we do have our handy dandy temperature gauge here, so we know exactly what the temperature is inside the sauna. This actually hangs inside the sauna. So the sauna thermometer goes up to 248 degrees, and the hygrometer, which is measuring the percentage of steam or the level of steam, goes up to 100%. So you can create truly a steam experience in this tent, as opposed to having to go to your local healthcare facility or a fitness center, and you have to share, or a hotel or resort, and you have to share sweat with somebody else on wood who has been in there already. You have the experience of being able to do this in your backyard, which is where I'm set up right now. It's just right here in my backyard. So there's your meter, and it hangs on the inside. Now, I'm going to bring to you the stove up close because the stove is very challenging to move once you get it assembled and situated. So I'm going to kind of show you how that works while I'm moving some parts around here. When it comes to, there's a spot on top of the tent in which this pipe peeks through to the top. I'm going to show you like the features of the stove up close and in person so you can see it. And it, like I said, it is heavy to hold by itself. So I'm going to move some things around so that you can see this a little better. And because we're outside on unstable ground, it can be a little interesting. But this smokestack comes off like this. And it kind of, when it comes presented in the stove, it comes nested inside the stove itself. So when it comes to breaking this all down, everything goes back into the stove and goes into the storage bag. So it breaks down really, really simple. Now, we're going to pick up the stove on grass, which is never easy. And I'm going to try and give you this experience up close. The stones are already in this. I already took the stones and put them in. I'm going to move you guys up a little bit closer. So yes, we have lots of stones. These are God-made stones. These are real stones, real rocks. And they come in a box on their own. So when you get this thing delivered to your door and it's really heavy, it's the stones, okay? And the stones, when you create heat with the stones in the basket, then you can pour water on the stones and it creates the actual steam. So traditional sauna, wood steam sauna, uses stones or rocks with water in order to create the steaming effect. This basket comes off, okay, but there's no bottom to it. This is the bottom, okay? And this part you don't have to assemble. This part you do have to assemble, okay? What I'm going to suggest that you do, as I learned this the hard way, these little screws, you don't have to have any tools to do this part, but I want to show you a little trick so that you don't do that and like lose your screw. I attempted to put all 4 panels together by myself, and it was really tricky, but then I put on my thinking cap. And let me show you something, because it doesn't show this in the directions, so I want to show you some little helpful tips and tricks. On the panel here, it has these little holes with a little inset there. And on this part, when these come out, again, I'm making this so much easier for you guys that are watching this. This is not supposed to be an assembly video, but we're going to make it one today because the instructions that come in the user manual make it a little tricky in order to understand. And I'm pretty tool savvy and familiar with using my hands for repairing around the house and running power tools. But for some of you who have never picked up a tool in your life and don't understand how hardware works, this could be very frustrating for you. So I'm going to make this a little easier on you. When you get your product, it's going to come in 4 sheets, okay, 4 steel panels. And if you see on here, there's little holes on the end in which they connect with these holes here. Now, if you try and put these together and try and screw that together as one, it's really complicated. So I'm going to show you a little trick. You're going to take your screw here, and we're going to go ahead and put it here on the end. And these don't have to have a tool. You just screw them in, and you're going to get black on your fingers because that's the nature of this type of metal. The black does rub off on your fingers, so don't wear a white shirt. Don't wear anything really nice that you don't want to get dirty. Okay, and I'm going to do that on both ends just to make my life a little bit easier. And I'm going to recommend that you do this on both panels because once you try and assemble it, it's a lot easier if you do this pre-work, but they did not show this in the manual, so I'm giving you the shortcut. And if you happen to have any questions while I'm doing this, I'm happy to answer. And the sauna experience is really good for cardiovascular health, really good for respiratory and autoimmune health, really good for anti-aging. If you're trying to heal things on a cellular level, getting in the sauna 2 to 4 times a week is extraordinary on the body. But if you're just getting started, I highly recommend that you just start the heat at about 80 to 95, because heat inside of this versus heat inside of our infrared sauna is a lot different. So I would highly recommend just do 10 to 15 minutes per time, a couple of days a week, and just see how your body responds, because we don't want you to experience heat exhaustion or heat illness. Definitely don't do this outside on a day in which it's like over 80 degrees. That's not a very good idea because it's going to get too hot inside that black tent if the sun is out. So don't do that to yourself. So we've got all 4 screws on each panel. Now, you see where the holes are there, okay? We're going to match those holes up like that, and then you're going to slide down until they kind of lock in. And if you have to unscrew them a little bit so that you can slide them, now we're locked in, now you tighten the screws. And you do that for each side. I wish I would have known this because it required me to fumble around a little bit. So we're going to do both sides here. And if you have to be creative with your workspace in order to be able to lock and load the screws, you just got to use what you got, right? Because if it's just you, it is possible. I am living proof that it is possible to assemble this by yourself. I did it. But I'm going to show you how to do it as well. So we are going to do it with the other end as well. So this is a lot easier because we've already got the other 3 sides up and going. But again, you might have to loosen up those screws in order to get it to lock into the long groove. I'm going to call it the bottleneck groove. I just made that up on the spot. So, hey, I'm curious, for those of you who are watching and those of you who are excited about this new product, what can you not wait to experience? Like, what benefit are you looking for with the sauna? So there's our basket for our stones. Okay, now on this just pops off, and this is stored. This comes stored inside. So when you get your product, you're going to find a lot of tools, moving parts, screws, all that kind of stuff. It all comes in a little baggie. And on top of here, so this little door opens, and there's a little grate in here for wood, okay? We don't want to be burning trash. We don't want to be burning anything outside of charcoal and wood, okay? This piece right here on top comes off, and it's stored inside, but it is screwed down, and we use tools to do that. So I'm not going to unscrew that to save us time. But when this comes in, I had to look inside of here to find it because I was like, okay, I'm missing a piece. No, it's in the very back of the box. So you want to make sure that you check all your parts first. But anyways, this is our knob for the door. And this is our knob for our hatch here, in which we can open or close for more heat. Okay, and I had a hard time finding that hole when I was putting this together. So let me show you. In the user manual, this piece right here looks very different from this piece right here, but they look very similar in size. So I'm going to show you this right now because it'll be very confusing to you if you don't see it in person. So we've got B and C. This is part B, and this is part C, and they're very different in size, but they look very similar inside the manual. So I wanted to point that out to you. The chimney base is stored inside the box. So you'll have to look for that inside the box when you get it, okay? We're going to take the doorknob, and there's a little spot here where you can screw that in, okay? Now, this little piece, I'm looking here, and I'm like, okay, where does this go? Because there's no hole there, okay? Well, here's what has to happen. When you open the door, you're going to see the screw on the backside. You're going to slide that to where it's centered, okay? And then when it's centered, then you can put this on the front, and that gives you the ability to slide the door back and forth so that you can control how much heat is released out the pipe versus how much heat is in the tent. Now, if you have this wide open, you're going to smoke yourself out. So don't do that, okay? We want to make sure that your vent handle here, which is controlling the vent, when you have wood or charcoal burning inside of there, you do not want this door and this hatch wide open if you're sitting inside the tent with the door closed or zip closed. You will smoke yourself out. We don't want you to get smoke inhalation. So I'm warning you now, don't do that. You can close that and then it pushes and vents all the smoke up. Now, this piece that you see right here, so I'm going to stick this right here on top. Actually, no, I'm going to set this down here on the ground for just a moment. It's a great day to be outside, by the way. So this is your vent stack, okay? And these all look very similar when they come inside. When they come inside the package, they're going to be nested inside the actual stove. So the chimney nests inside the stove like this, okay? This one has a handle, so you got to make sure that you are putting it in the right spot, okay? But these all, be careful when you're touching the ends. They can be a little sharp, but you know, we have gloves if you need them. And then this ring here on top goes inside, and this is going to squeezy inside there as well, okay? And I know I can do this because I've already done it once, maybe. The secret. How do we get it all in there nice and snug, like a bug under a rug? Anyways, we'll figure that all out. But it all comes enclosed. It came inside the box, okay? So this all comes disassembled pretty easily, as you're witnessing. So I'm going to take everything back out. Now, let's use some common sense, but not everybody's so common. So I'm going to be nice and give you a full warning. My friends, if you have been using your stove and you go to take the smokestack off, this is metal and wood and steam and heat have been pushing through the metal. So this is just as hot as a tailpipe when your engine is running and blowing, exhaust out the pipe. This is going to be just as hot. So that's why we have the gloves included in order to help you so that you don't burn yourself. But do not touch this until the whole unit is completely cooled down for several hours. Okay? And remember, if you're in an area where it's sunny outside like it is today, this is going to be hot to touch too. So again, we have provided you the heat dissipating gloves so that, and they are thermal insulated on the inside. Okay? So if you are wanting to make adjustments to your pipe, make sure and use the gloves. I know it seems like common sense, but it's not always common for some people. Okay, so when we go to our user manual here, okay, again, I want to make sure that I'm answering any questions because this thing was frustrating to put together alone, but I figured it out. But not all of you might be so user savvy with instructions. So we have chimney, we have got 4 chimney pipes. These are the ones that have nothing on them, okay? We have one that has lots of holes. This is the one that goes at the very top, okay? The very top. And then we have this one that controls the heat and steam and smoke leaving, should say the smoke leaving. You can see inside of there, door open, door closed. So door open, you can see through. Hello, everybody. And when I close it, you can't see me anymore, right? So that's how that works. This goes halfway through, okay? And our chimney ring is actually affixed to the top of the tent, which I'll show you here in a moment. We have our poker, we have all these different safety ropes and hooks and stakes. So you have everything that you need here. So when we get to this page, I would highly recommend that you assemble the stove and the pipe before you assemble the tent, okay? But it shows you the sequencing in which these pipes go. So, and it tells you here in the easy setup guide, which takes you 15 to 30 minutes, just depends on your comfort zone, I'm gonna say. On page 12, it shows you how to assemble the chimney by letter and piece by piece. So we're gonna put 3 letter I's together, which is this solid, no holes, no gate. Okay, we're gonna put 3 of those together first. Now, before we're gonna do that, we're actually gonna put the top of this back on. Now I screwed up on this with assembly 2, because in the manual, it shows you And I'm sharing you this because this product, if it's already out and about and you already have it delivered to your doorstep, it's going to be different in the manual. It shows you here that the basket has a bit of a curve and that this piece right here has a like uneven lip, and it doesn't. It's flat. And the basket is flat as well. There's no lip. So what you have to remember, when I put this on initially, I put it face down because it looked nice and seamless. Like, oh, that's so pretty, right? Wrong. That's not the way to do it. This is not good. So we're going to flip this up so it sits flush in these little brackets because it doesn't show that in the manual, okay? And then when we put our basket on, which is rectangular and flush, it's going to sit right inside of that tray like a puzzle piece, okay? Just like a puzzle piece, and that's your bottom of your basket. But what I want to make sure you know is that this does not, the basket does not screw down and secure to the stove. You can take it off and move it around, but remember to use those hot gloves because it will be hot if you have been using the stove, okay? So we are going to assemble 3 of these first, and they nest. So if you can't nest them, you got the wrong end, okay? So we're going to nest, and I promise you they'll go, and then give them a little tight screw, little rotation, and it locks them in. We're going to do 3 of those, okay? 3 of those. See, I couldn't get that piece to go, so we're going to flip it, and there's the nesting, okay? Now, again, when we go to page 12 of assembling the chimney, it shows 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. Now, what we have to do is we have to, I'm going to call it the gatekeeper. It's the gate of keeping the smoke in the tent or out of the tent, right? So the gate goes with the lever at the bottom, okay? And again, this is not the top, right? Because it doesn't fit. So we have to make sure that it'll nest, okay? So there's your nesting. Now the gate works, open and closing. We've got one more piece that has to go on here. If I remember right, it shows, we got 1, 2, 3. Yes, I have one that fell off the back of my table. That's why I thought, make sure you got all your parts, right? So we're gonna put one more clear, like you can see all the way through it, no holes, no gates. And we're gonna find which end works best. There we go. And then last but not least is the vent pipe, which has all the holes at the top. It goes in at the very top, give it a nice little squeeze and twist, and we're locked, okay? So there we go. There is your vent pipe. And then it goes right on top of the basket, okay? On stable ground. Okay, now I'll go ahead and show you how that works here in just a second. But for now, I'm going to sit that out of the way so that we don't have to deal with it. Now, when you get your zenzone sauna tent, okay, I want to make sure that you're going to need some items that are not inclusive with your product, okay? You're going to need a bucket of water or a fire extinguisher, okay? Why? Because you're running a fire, and so you need to have access to be able to shut that down when you need to, as opposed to when it's convenient or when the fire burns out. You want to make sure you have an emergency option. So a small fire extinguisher, which you can get at your local store, Walmart, Target, your hardware store, what have you, even some pharmacies, or a bucket of water, okay? You're going to need firewood or charcoal. We don't provide the firewood or the charcoal. We do provide the poker. So you do get the poker to stoke the fire. We do provide that, and we provide the gloves, all right? And we provide the stones, so you don't have to worry about the stones. And once you have the stones, they're good. They just heat and you pour water on them. You're going to need a bottle of water so that you can actually create the steam. And because you're going to get hot, hydration is key for the sauna to do what it's supposed to do. You're going to need a wooden or a plastic seat. Now don't use metal don't take in a metal bench. And I'm going to caution you even on a plastic seat because the tent is going to get up to 200 degrees. Plastic is very hot when it's heated. Wood is the best conductor of heat. So if you can get yourself a wood seat, I would highly recommend that versus plastic, but plastic is going to be superior over metal. So If you happen to have like a lawn chair that has the cloth seating in it, you'll be fine with that. But make sure that you have a seat to sit on. And because we have all of these anchor points that I am not using in my yard, because I'm not leaving the tent up tonight since it's so hot outside, I will not be using it. I'll be using my indoor sauna. You're going to need a rubber mallet in order to push these stakes into the ground in order to anchor your tent, because it will blow away if you get a little bit of wind going. It is a wind trap, so it's easy to catch wind because of how it's made. It is not made to be wind proof. So you're going to need a rubber mallet or a hammer in order to anchor your stakes into the ground, which I'm not going to demonstrate today. You're going to need an optional, if you choose to have an optional tarp underneath, I mentioned that earlier. Right now, this is just sitting on the grass. So if I lift up, you're going to see grass, and there's no bottom to the tent. So if you want to put a tarp in there, and then last but not least, you might make sure that you have a towel, because when you are sweating profusely, you're going to want a towel in order to dry off so that your body can continue to detox inside the tent. Okay. So those are the things that you're going to need in order to be able to assemble this properly. I want to talk to you about, on page 13 of your user manual, seasoning the stove. So before you use this, you have to season it just like you would a new skillet. If you got a new Lodge skillet or cast iron skillet or some of the new baking dishes that come out, you want to be able to season those before you actually cook with them. The stove is exactly the same way. You're going to want to burn wood inside of it, which removes chemicals. And why is that important? Because you don't want to be inside the tent and you're venting air through the gate, through the front door of the stove, and you're inhaling the chemical that is inside from the paint. Okay. So when you season the stove, it removes all of the chemical inside of it so that you are not breathing and inhaling that. Really, really important. But make sure that you are not burning anything except for regular wood or charcoal for like a grill. Don't burn artificial wood, artificial logs, press board logs, instant lighting charcoal, paper, trash, or anything liquid. We don't want to enhance the fire. We're just trying to burn the stench off the inside of the stove. We do not want the stove inside the tent when you're seasoning it, okay? And we don't want anything inside the rock bin when we're seasoning it, okay? So in here, it shows your dampening lever, okay? The dampening lever is gonna be, it shows on and off positions, and actually this is not right. This is referring to the pipe. So again, when you're doing the seasoning of the stove, you're actually gonna have the pipe intact as well. So the ideal setting would be to do this in your driveway where there's no grass or there's nowhere for things to burn. Set your stove and your pipe, and you're actually gonna turn your dampener lever open and close as it instructs on page 13 so that you can make sure that you're venting and you're working those chemicals out of the stove as opposed to trapping everything, okay? So when you are venting, you're going to open the vent using this little handle here. You're going to open the door and you're going to use your poker and you're going to put your wood in there and you're going to stoke it a couple of times and light the fire, close the door. And then once the fire starts, you're going to hear a lot of crackling and popping sounds. It's actually quite a therapeutic experience to hear that kind of stuff. It is nature in its own making. And you're probably going to like smell like nasty smells because we're burning away toxins from the inside of the stove. It's impossible to not have toxins inside the stove because of the way this thing is made. And it is normal for your stove to change colors. So if you notice that the stove inside or out is changing colors, that is perfectly normal. Don't let that frustrate you. That's just how it goes. What's really important is you let the fire burn completely. So we don't want to put the fire out any sooner. We want the fire to work all the way through. So you're going to light the fire, let it burn completely, and then you're going to use your handy dandy gloves to open the door instead of touching the door with your bare hands or without heat resistant gloves. Okay, so we're going to use the gloves to open the door. And when the fire is completely out and this is cool to touch, then your seasoning is done. You don't have to worry about anything else. Okay, so that's how that works. You got to make sure and season the stove. Now tent, let's talk about the tent, because the tent is a lot of fun to assemble and disassemble. Totally kidding. That was sarcasm. But I did find that if you're by yourself, it is really hard to do this, and it's not very thorough in the instruction manual on how to do this. So I'm going to go through a quick demonstration, and you guys are all going to laugh your tail off because it's going to look like I'm wearing the tent as I'm going through and assembling and disassembling it, and we'll go through some of that. The other thing before I do that I want to showcase with you, so I'm going to move the stove out of the way so that you can actually see the top of the tent, because there's some great features in this tent that are important for you to all be able to see. And I'm moving this out of the way so I don't trip over it when I'm trying to assemble and disassemble. Like I said, it's been a lot of fun today trying to figure this out. So we've got two different doors here. We've got one right here. This zip's completely closed. And because this is not anchored to the ground, it's very easy for things to move, okay? Now, let's make sure that I'm clear. You do not want to get in this tent if it is in the middle of a warm time and you're trying to get your tent temperature up to 100 and it's hot outside and the tent is black, and zip it up. You are going to roast like a turkey in the oven on Thanksgiving Day. Don't do that to yourself. It's okay if you've got to ventilate yourself if you need to. You also have vent panels here. You can actually see in and out of these vent panels. Let me go back here and zip and unzip. You can unzip part of the panel if you really want to, okay? You don't have to unzip all of it. You can do just part of it if you would like. But we also have these vent panels so that you can be seen on the other side. Let me move this out of the way so that, ooh, those rocks are heavy, heavy, heavy. So make sure that you're using caution when moving the stones because they are heavy. Now, I'm going to move this tent forward a little bit so you can see. We're going to have a little hide and seek. And now you can see me. Now you can see me. Now you can see me again. And then on the other side of the tent is the exact same thing. So we have all these great little vent panels so that you can actually see the world, and they Velcro so that they stay out of the way. Hang tight here. So we have all these little panels. So there, you can see my hand waving. They're all the way around. So if you don't want to be in pitch black, you can actually open up all these panels, and there's windows all the way around so that you can see the outside in while you are roasting in the steam. It's very cool, okay? On the top, bringing this down, rolling it. On the top here, this is a vent, okay? So everything is venting out, and as you can see, because I don't have it secured, it's collapsing on one side, but that's what I'm going to show you. So on one side, we have a vent. So there's a vent here, and this pops up to keep it open. Isn't that cool? Like, Life Pro is just really creative with stuff. I love it. Okay, so we are going to rotate the tent so that you can see the other side. And this is where things get really tricky because it decides it doesn't want to maintain shape because it is a perfect cube. So if you don't anchor it, it will change. It will collapse. Oh, you know what I did? I'm stuck on the stove. See, I told you I moved the stove out of the way. This is where it gets really fun. Ta-da! There's the stove. So you can rock this thing onto the side if you choose to. I had to put it on its side in order to assemble it and disassemble it. It kind of takes on a world of its own. But let me move the stove back out of the way. I told you this was going to be a blooper video where you get to see me being funny and the unexpected that happens so that you feel human when it happens to you at home. We all just want to feel human, right? Okay, so when we go to looking at the top of the tent, which I'm going to flip it to its side, it's 71 inches square, like cubical. So there we go. Okay, Now we go. So you're looking at the top of the tent now, okay? This is where your stovepipe comes out, okay? See the hole? Hello? This is where the stovepipe vents through from the inside with the stove. Now, because it is so easy to trip over the stove when it's sitting outside, be very careful with the stove inside because there's no light, okay? So make sure you use your a little camp up pop-up lantern or some kind of flashlight so that you can see, because we don't want you to trip over the black stove in the black tent in the dark. Not a good idea. But this is your stove vent cover, okay? And this goes right here. It velcros in place, and this comes off when you're not using it and folding up so that everything collapses as it should. Now, this can be a little sharp here on the inside, so please be careful. If you are, so this rolls up, and then there, just like a regular tent, it has a little toggle here that will keep this little door in place so that it doesn't roll back down, okay? Now, I'm gonna go inside and play a little peekaboo, and we're gonna pretend like the stove is in the tent, and you're gonna see how this pops through. So it just goes through like that, okay? So stove through, pipe, you got your vent on, vent off, and this is affixed to the stove inside the tent. So that's how that works. So there is air coming and going through the top, and we've got two vents. We got a vent over here, and we got a vent over here, and we got windows all the way around the outside. Really neat invention, by the way. Really neat invention. Okay, so let me show you how this is, how I'm gonna like break this down, and then I'm gonna pop it back out so that you have a good idea, because again, the instructions say just to lift up, and it looked like I was folding a sheet or like stuck inside this ginormous space with nowhere to go, and it was just me. So you can do it alone, but I'm gonna show you the easy way to do it. Make sure you're drinking though, because it's a warm day today. Okay, the sides collapse inward, and then the whole tent collapses. So you have to be creative as to what works best for you when you're collapsing all these in, okay? And then when they all collapse inward, then everything lays flat, okay? This is gonna come off because that is a metal piece there, so we don't wanna fold that up with the metal in place. And then this piece right here flips to the down spot, and then everything kind of folds in together flat so that you can put this back together in the carry bag. But again, this by itself, without anything in it or on it, weighs about 26 pounds. So it can be a lot of weight, a lot of space, okay? And again, I'm just one person, so I'm gonna show you when I laid it out, okay? When I laid it out, if I remember right, again, this is where Amber gets to be a blooper. Yep, that doesn't want to work. So when it comes, you're going to see the center of the tent. You got to pop the center of the tent open first, okay? Yeah, so here we go. Okay, so when this folds back up, these corners, these little pieces right here just kind of drop into a long rectangular space, and it shows you how to do that in the manual. We'll get into that here in a minute. But what I want you to do is pop the top out first. Pop the top out first. Okay, this is the roof. This is the roof, okay? So we're gonna pop that out first. We're gonna turn it onto its side. And we're gonna find, I don't care which side, but you're gonna find one side to pop out, or you're gonna find a way to get in. That's what I had to figure out earlier. We're gonna open everything up kind of like in the shape of a square. And then from here, instead of pulling on the outside, I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna go inside, and it's much easier to push than it is to pull. So this is the Amber quickie version way of setting up the tent, okay? So again, it's a lot easier if you go from the inside and push with your body as opposed to pulling from the outside, unless you have multiple people there to help you and stabilize. So again, to put it back down together. So this is the side. The side has windows. It just, boom, just let it go. Okay, boom, let it go. Okay, and then we're gonna do the other side and just make sure that you clear. I did not clear space because, like I said, the tent kind of takes on a life of its own because of the dynamics of how the bungees are working. So make sure you clear yourself so you don't get smacked in the face with the tent like I just did. I told you it'd be a good blooper video. And then when we are all said and done, it's flat. So when you present to the tent, when you unfold it, it's going to show you. This is the most complex part of this tent, and the instructions are very, I'm going to say, not as thorough with the pictures, okay? It just says to gather the tent carry bag, remove the tent in the carry bag, unbuckle a strap. There's a strap that keeps it all tied in together. And you're going to tug the handle in the center of the roof until the tent pops up. And then you're going to twist the roof so that the corner of the tents line up in the corners of the floor. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's a little confusing. So we're going to go through this one more time. We're going to assume that the tent is popped down, okay? We're going to pop up, which we just did. We're going to rotate. It says to twist. So I'm going to assume that we have twisted in the right direction here. I didn't do this earlier, but I just did. Okay, so we're gonna lift up. And by the way, you don't want to be standing on it when we lift. So we're gonna lift up and just see if we just flip it to our side, flip it onto a side, and then we're just gonna try and spread things apart and see how it takes on a life of its own. Instead of trying to manipulate the tent, let the tent take shape in its life. See, I'm trying to pull here. It takes a lot of energy to pull. And then when you pull on one side, another side opens up. So just be mindful of your surroundings when you're doing this, because like I'm trying to arm wrestle this. This is what I was doing earlier. It was like, okay, I'm getting stuck in the tent. Don't waste your time, okay? I'm gonna zip this cover up. This is our door. And again, I'm going through this because I had to do this. You're all gonna experience it. So we might as well have fun and laugh about it together, right? Because I did not write the owner's manual and I did not design the tent, but I do like the tent. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna flip it so that I am bottoms up, okay, or bottoms on a side, okay? So we've got the top in place. Now I just have to get one side. I just have to get one side open. And again, it takes a lot of energy to pull, right? Yeah, so let's not pull because I don't want you guys to injure your shoulders, right? So we're just gonna try and find a way to open up. Here's the spot right here. I know, right? This is kind of fun. This is what I dealt with earlier today. So the tent will take on a life of its own if you just get into a position in which it can remain stable. We just have to get one side open. Just one side open. Okay. There we got the roof. The roof. The roof. The roof is on fire. Just kidding. There we go. So that's up. We got one side out. We got another side out. And pushing on another side. Okay. Now that we got several sides up, I'm getting out of here. Okay. Now that I've got it to take shape, I'm going to go inside, pop another side out, and then I'm going to stand it up very carefully, not to lose a side. And then I'm going to pull or go inside and get the final side in. There we go. That's how we do it. This is how we do it. Okay. And then when we go to move it, we just got to make sure that all the corners are symmetrical and secure the stakes. And now we have a nice secure tent. And we have panels all the way around, which we can see what's going on. But I'll tell you what, on a day like today, you don't need the heat or the sauna because it creates it just by being in it. Whew, a lot of sweat. So that, my friends, is how to arm wrestle the Life Pro Zenzone sauna tent for your for your laughter. It is a good workout. Okay, now I'm not going to light the stove, but I want you to see how this all goes together. This is our vent, okay? This is going to go on this side. You're going to see where the open square is, and I recommend that you lay the tent on its side to affix this before you anchor it down, because this will be very hard to put it on after you've anchored it down because it's on top. So let's not do that. Let's get this on first and then position it back on its side. And you'll see one side, because of the way the tent is designed, one side collapsed. So you're going to have to go back over and pop it back out so that it's good to go. Okay. So this is where our vent hood is. I'm going to drag this here a little bit so you can see this closer in person. The door is right here. I'm going to go ahead and open the door. And there is Velcro here, but there we go. So there's how we Velcro that back. Now, we're going to take our stove and we're going to stick the stove inside the tent, right next to where the vent is located. And if it were me, I would make sure that your stove, I'm going to take you inside so you can see. I would take your stove so that it's inside on the ground facing you. So that if you're sitting, ooh, isn't this cool? This is the dome. Hello. Okay. So if you're sitting in your chair right here, or wherever you want, now it looks all dark, right? But each one of these is a lighthouse. We have lights. We can open the panels and those Velcro, and then they roll up, and those are all the way around. So we have windows all the way around. We've got vents on both sides, okay? And then we've got windows here. We also have a door here and a door here. Here's our vent right here. You cannot change the vent from inside, okay? You have to do it from the outside. But there's our stove. Okay, our stove is positioned here, and I'm going to go grab the pipe, see if I can get this to stay flat since I'm on ground. Get to experience a little bit of earthing here. Okay, so here's our pipe, and I'm going to highly recommend, so here's where our pipe goes in. Oh, by the way, you can't do it that way. That was another blooper. We got to go up first. So check me out. We got to go up first. Up. And bingo. Okay, now make sure that your stove is lining up with the hole here. And you can do that stove this way. We can turn the stove this way. Whatever's convenient for you. But my friends, if you have the choice, yes, sweating here. If you have the choice of being able to put something flat here to keep your stove on a level ground, I would highly recommend that because it makes it easier for this to remain stable. And then once you get your basket in here and you get your rocks in here, you're going to have enough weight that this isn't going to go anywhere. Okay. So I'm going to position. Whew, that breeze feels great after being in that tent. So you can see that in there. We're going to take our rocks. We're going to set them on in there. Anybody got some favorite camp songs? Yes, good panoramic view. Now, I want to make sure that we are also clear on this. Saunas are not ideal for individuals under the age of dissipate heat the same way that we do with children inside a steam sauna, because they don't understand when too much is enough and they think it's cool factor. So be careful with your kids trying to use, it's different, you know, kids in an infrared sauna, not such a big deal, but kids inside of this, they will probably think it's cool factor, but we'll have heat exhaustion first, and then we have a big emergency. So let's not do that. So there's your vent pipe going out. We can turn the pipe open or turn it off. If we're here, you can see if it's level here, it's off. And if it's on, it's up and down. Okay. So off, on, and that's letting air out or letting air in, leaving air in. Okay. All right. So that's how you set up the tent. Whew. I tell you what, that was a good workout. I'm sweating, getting the sauna tent ready. Isn't that kind of crazy, right? That's kind of crazy. So you can see the vent pipe coming out the top of the hatch there. And we have two other vents on the outside so that you can get air out. Remember, you'll have to set those up when you're on the outside of the tent because you can't do it from the inside of the tent. There is a mesh screen there that keeps the bugs out. Okay? So we secure the tent. It gives you instructions on how to do that with your anchors. Make sure you get a wooden mallet or a rubber mallet in order to be able to hammer into the ground. Those are the main things that I wanted to share with you. Our meter, there's a spot inside the tent that you can hang the meter so that you know exactly, it goes right inside the door. And again, you know exactly what the temperature setting is for the actual heat and for the steam, like how much percentage of steam are we producing. So make sure that you gather your fire extinguisher and you have a bucket of water, place it inside the tent, not outside the tent, inside the tent, in case you have a spark fly and you happen to launch your tent on fire by accident. It can happen. And then it's going to give you instructions on how to properly make a fire, stoke a fire. So just make sure you're using real wood, no artificial wood, no fire starting logs. And then it gives you tips and tricks on how to use the zenzone sauna tent. And then we get into adjusting the temperature and choosing a temperature. So when we're choosing temperatures, my friends, our traditional infrared sauna goes up to about 170 degrees on most units that you're finding nowadays. My original sauna, which is a 3-man sauna in my home, is not Life Pro, but it's about 8 years old. It only goes up to 140. Our sauna blankets go up to 175. So if you are trying to experience the same type of heat, infrared in this is going to be a lot hotter and it's going to feel very different compared to your infrared sauna. You're going to be able to tolerate the heat in infrared sauna a lot different because you're not dealing with the steam. You're dealing with infrared panels and wavelengths. So just make sure if you've already got a sauna or a sauna blanket, and if you're wanting to go and experience a sauna tent, that you start with a lower temperature just to see how your body adjusts for the first 2 days and then go from there. It is best if you take a shower before you get in the sauna. Why? Because you're opening up pores and you're opening up your sweat glands in order to be able to eliminate out. You're also cleansing the skin so that you're allowing your skin to do its job, which is our detox, one of our greatest detox organs. So just do a quick rinse. Make sure you don't have any makeup on or any lotions, creams, because that blocks, that contains heat, that contains toxins in the body. It keeps our body from being able to let go of that stuff. So make sure that you are free of oils and all that stuff. It's different if you're in an infrared sauna because the oils and the makeup, we don't want to saturate into the wood. But if you're getting into a sauna tent, we want you to have the best experience possible by opening everything up. You can use a grounding mat, you can use a towel, you can whatever you want to. But if you have hair accessories, if you have jewelry on, make sure if you've got anything with metal on that you remove that, because again, when we're getting up to temperatures of 200 with metal, it gets very, very hot and you can burn yourself. So we're going to allow the sauna to warm up for 15 to 20 minutes. If you enter the sauna with a swimsuit on or just take it off, go completely bare. It's better to be as bare as possible in a sauna as opposed to wearing clothes because our body needs to eliminate those toxins, but we need to let the heat in as well. So it's always best to do sauna as minimal as possible. And then adjusting the temperature, you have the dampener pipe, which allows heat to leave the tent. So that's how you actually adjust the temperature, and the temperature shows up here. So if you find it's really hot in the tent, you can open up the doors, you can open up the dampener pipe and allow the heat to leave through the top, or you just keep the heat inside the space and experience it. But do make sure that you have, this is a 16-ounce bottle of water. Make sure you have at least one of those, if not a few of those. Okay, but adjusting the temperature, it teaches you the common ways to do it that most people are not so common with. And just remember that when you go to poke the fire or when you go to touch the stove, that we are using the included hot hands gloves so that you don't burn yourself, okay? Those are made specifically for this stove. Now, to add humidity or to create steam, you are just going to take your bottle of water and you're going to pour it on the rocks that sit on top of the stove, and it's going to cause steam inside the tent. And I'll tell you, there's a great smell that goes along with when you're burning certain types of wood, especially cedar. There's a great aroma that you get when you create steam inside the tent. So now, that being said, don't use essential oils on your rocks. A lot of people love the use of essential oils. If you're going to use essential oils, put it in a spray bottle and spray the inside panels of the tent, but don't put essential oils on the stones in the tent because it provides a barrier in which the water can't make contact with the rock, with the stone, and you can't get the reaction of the steam that you want. So don't use oil because oil repels water, and we're trying to create water with steam. So don't do that with essential oils, but you can use essential oils in, just make sure that you're spraying it. Don't pour water inside the stove, you can damage it. And then I'm going to point you to page 26, which is your temperature benefits page on how do I know which temperature is best for me. You're going to start with lower temperature, 85 to 95. We can establish that without even turning on the stove, just by being in my yard and it's 85 today. So we can create that by itself. But if you are wanting low level heat, like a lounge sauna to relax, it improves your overall well-being. We're getting comfortable. It soothes our skin, our muscles, our body. The temperature range for that is 80 to 110 with a humidity percentage of 20 to 60%. So again, on here, on our gauge, and my gauge is angled for some reason. I don't know if that is a normal thing or if that's just how it came, but I'm excited that I got a one-of-a-kind gauge reader. But between 85 to 110, and I can tell you right now, it's 85 standing right where I'm at because the temperature gauge is working. And it is 60% humidity out here right now. And so we want the thermometer gauge to be 80 to 100 and 110. And we want the sauna hygrometer, which is our steam moisture meter, to be 20 to 60% humidity. Okay. When it comes to low or moderate heat, like you would see at a gym, we're going to be more along the lines of 110 to 130 degrees with a humidity level. If you're wanting to improve overall comfort, well-being, mindset, relieves chronic pain, and reduces inflammation, we're gauging for 20 to 60% humidity. And if we are wanting to have a mild toxin release, opening up the pores and benefiting our skin more, so we're trying to detox our skin, we're going to jack that humidity up to 60 to 100%. And you get the benefits of all of that. So you not only get the comfort and well-being, you're not only reducing inflammation, it's an anti-inflammatory, but we're opening up skin, we're opening up pores, cleansing skin, and rejuvenating ourselves. Humidity is at 60 to 100%. So if we are trying to experience, most saunas originated in Turkey. Okay, so everybody refers to as the Turkish sauna. The Turkish Russian sauna, if you're trying to get kind of along those lines, you're going to choose 130 to 210 degrees. Now that is a huge range, my friends. So err to the side of comfort as it relates to your body, because my body and your body are very different. So if you are wanting to experience the extreme of the extreme, you're talking 210 degrees. If you're just dabbling and getting started and you want to know what it's like to be in a Turkish sauna or a Russian sauna, then jack up that heat to 130, okay? Because dry heat at 130 is still very tolerable. It's not like it is in Florida or on the East Coast where you are swimming in your own sweat and the moisture is like laying on your skin just by being outside. That's just, it's a different kind of heat, okay? If we're trying to relieve chronic pain and inflammation, we're reducing blood pressure and we are promoting fat loss, especially brown fat through the midsection. We're trying to open our pores. We're going to channel that humidity gauge, the one on bottom, 75 to 100%. 75 to 100% humidity. Now, the sports medicine medical professional in me, talking about heat stroke and heat illness, is going to advise all of you that if you're going to go 75 to 100% humidity, make sure and reduce the internal temperature to about 130 and see how you handle 75 to 100% humidity. Why? Because it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much heat to create heat illness or a heat stroke if the humidity is very high. And if you have had a concussion, any kind of brain injury in years past, it doesn't matter whether it was recent or whether it was years ago. If you have had any kind of a head injury or concussion, you are more prone to heat exhaustion, heat stroke than anybody who hasn't. So err to the side of caution and go 130 degrees, 75 to 100% humidity, and see how you handle that. If you get lightheaded, dizzy, if you become disoriented, you're going to need to drop that temperature down if you want to keep the humidity high, or drop the humidity down to 75 or 60% and leave the temperature where it's at until your body acclimates. Acclimation is our body getting used to a new climate, a new environment. And if you don't give your body the time and ability to adapt and adjust, it goes into a fight or flight state and it shuts systems down. So we don't want that. We don't want our body to go into stress because we haven't given ourselves time to acclimate. So make sure that you are allowing your body to give you the time and ability to adjust. And don't worry about what everybody else says in our VIP Facebook group as to what is appropriate or what they're doing, because what they are doing, the altitude at which they live, the climate at which they live primarily plays a huge role in how our body adjusts to temperature and humidity change. So err to the side of caution. When it comes to experiencing the extreme heat, so we're talking a dry Finnish sauna. Most individuals in Finland, that is what Finland is known for. Most everybody in Finland has an outdoor cedar barrel sauna. They're outdoors a lot. And if you're wanting to experience the extreme benefits of a Finnish, not F-I-N-I-S-H, but from Finland, a Finland-like sauna, you're looking at temperatures of 210 to 230 degrees. Our infrared saunas and our sauna blankets don't even go 75% of that. So if you're wanting to do extreme dry heat, remember dry heat, not moist heat. Dry heat, 210 to 230 degrees, but humidity drops way down to 20%. Because if you have 50% humidity or even 40% humidity, we're creating more toxins on the surface and we don't get to release that. So if you're wanting to experience the dry heat that you would experience like in Arizona or Nevada, without the sandstorm from having the wind blowing the sand everywhere, it's 210 to 230 degrees with 25 to 35% humidity on the humidity gauge. Now, what kind of benefits can you look forward to? If you are somebody who is wanting to reduce blood pressure, cardiovascular, wanting to improve cardiovascular benefits, you're wanting to get a really good detox, getting the junk out of the trunk, and you are trying to really work heavy on fat loss, those are your higher levels. Higher levels of temperature, and if you're wanting the moist environment, you're doing the higher levels of humidity. If you're wanting the dry environment, you're going to get fat loss either way because it's a thermogenic process in order to improve metabolism. But do not wear one of those wonderful plastic trash bag sweatsuits from the 80s and 90s in the sauna tent. That's a really stupid idea to do that. It's actually outlawed in most all high school and collegiate sports because you can die in this tent if you put a trash bag on in addition to the heat. Like, you do not want to cook your organs like a turkey. Not good. So your vagus nerve will shut you down really fast. If you try and do that, you'll pass out and then you'll actually overheat. So don't do that. Don't wear the plastic suits. Remember, Minimal is better. We need to allow our body to breathe, to release, and to be able to dry it off with a towel, not to contain all that heat on our skin. That's a bad idea. Old school methodologies, it's out. Don't do it. And then after your sauna session, you're going to make sure and give yourself some space where it's nice and cool. Don't go straight from the tent to a cold plunge because it's one extreme to the other. Ease into a cooler shower or a warm shower. And if you want to do a cryo plunge, if you want to do a cold water exposure experience with the NordPod right next to it, which is really awesome, by the way, make sure and let your body cool off for about 10 minutes and let your core temperature come back down before you submerge into the NordPod with 55-degree water. Because it's one thing to be acclimated and shocking the system and your body is used to that. And it's another when you think it's cool because it's a trend and then you do it and your central nervous system goes bananas and you almost get lightheaded, disoriented, and almost into a hyper breathing state, like hyperventilation, which actually causes you to become more still and paralyzed. Not good. So make sure that you allow yourself to cool off a little bit. Take a towel, wipe yourself down, drink lots of water, and you know, and then if you want to go for a NordPod plunge at 40 to 55 to 65 degrees, that would be awesome, and it is really good. Remember, after your sauna session, when the fire is out, make sure that you are allowing the stove to come down to like regular temperature because we don't want you to get burnt even when you got the gloves. We don't want you to get burnt. And when you do go to take a shower, don't use a lot of soap. One of the major things you can do is introduce a toxin in the form of soaps and chemicals on the outside in because the pores are so wide open. Just rinse off and use very little soap if you're using soap, but just use as little soap as possible so that you don't shut the pores down because you're trying to continue to detox. And I think that those are the main things. Now, it is showing, I already showed you how to disassemble everything. When it shows how to take down the tent and how to break it down, I have not actually attempted to do this, but it says you're basically pushing the outside of the tent in before you push down on the top. And then when you get down to the top in the very center, the roof will collapse and then you'll pull all four corners towards the center. And then there is a strap. Here is our strap that wraps around it and you can cinch it down and then it fits in that carry bag. So I'm not going to take all the time to disassemble all that because we already kind of showed you how to assemble it. And all that information is right here in the user's manual. The contraindications are also in the user manual. For those of you who have hair and you want to protect your hair from the extreme heat and you don't want to damage your hair from extreme heat damage, make sure that you're putting a conditioner in your hair before you get into the sauna tent. Or better yet, LifePro makes its own sauna hat to protect your hair. If you have extensions that have the little metal beads, remember, metal inside the sauna gets very hot. So you'll want to wear a sauna hat or you'll want to wear something that allows moisture to breathe but does not damage the hair. So it allows your hair, it protects your hair from extreme dryness. So if you have trouble with your hair being dry, the sauna hat from LifePro, you can get it on Amazon, will help you with that. So don't lose this manual when you get your sauna tent because lots of little tips, tricks, and all the assembly secrets. But if you get lost with knowing how to assemble it, then just come back to this video at a later date and you can figure out like how to do all the little secrets. Again, sauna tent, the zenzone sauna tent, 71 inches cubical, okay? One-man operation to put it together. I just showed you how to do that even if I was in the middle of it wearing it like an outfit. It's always fun to do some of that. We've talked about the differences between a steam sauna and an infrared sauna, the sauna blankets. So when you combine all of these wonderful modalities for anti-aging, pain relief, and improving cellular health, we're just, in general, my friends, we are just providing the human body in the optimal environment, not the environment it needs, but the optimal environment for healing to take place so that we can live our best life. And when you have a variety of modalities to do that, You don't have to go to a doctor and take medication. You don't have to go to a health club and pay somebody to do it for you, although it is nice when you do that, if you have the financial means to do that. But if you can combine the NordPod cryo plunge, the whole body vibration, the infrared technology or red light therapy technology, our steam, dry heat sauna, we've got so many different great types of biohacking options. The PMF mat is a new favorite of mine. I use my whole body vibration platform and my PMF mat at night at home before I go to bed, and I sleep through the night without, and I'm 46. So hormones are shifting all over the place. So for those of you, men and women who are struggling with sleeping through the night, the PMF mat is a great product that grounds you because it is referred to as the fifth element of the human body is the polarities. So that's what the pulse electromagnetic field mat does. When you combine that with heat, cryo, vibration, and red light or infrared light, it is just like magic in the making, in which your body is able to nurture and regenerate and restructure and continue to repair itself so that you can live your youngest life forward. I am living my youngest life right now at 46. I feel like I'm living in my 20s all over again, because we have so much of this technology at our fingertips. So if you're looking for the next big product in your lineup at home with Life Pro, the zenzone sauna tent is an option, but it cannot be used indoors. And if you live in a community in which you have homeowners association, you might check into some of those policies and procedures for having this out in front of your driveway. I highly doubt it's going to be a problem, but it doesn't hurt to ask some questions there. But this will not smoke as if you're burning trash outside, so you don't have to worry about that. It's all contained in the stove. But I want to say thank you on behalf of LifePro for the opportunity to serve you today and giving you ideas, options, and feedback as to how you can live your best life from the economical resources in a residential space with the knowledge base of experts, the top experts in the world at what we do, so that you get the information you need and you have the safety and security and the confidence to do it so that you can live every day as your best. So I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you on our next video together. Until then, thank you so much and have a great day.